Hello listeners, and welcome to the AfriWetu podcast, where we look to celebrate African history by telling our story. As I have said in the very beginning of this journey, one of the important things we need to tell is the stories of our legends, which are part of our story. So today is the first ever legend story of the series. And this is a legend coming from Kenya. So just very quickly, in terms of legends, so the importance for me, and the importance I think that should be for all our listeners, is legends are people who actually existed and who did walk the earth at some point. The stories around them may be a bit mythical, maybe sort of like leading to a fable and a folklore, but they did actually exist. And that is one of the stories we're going to hear today. And I'm very pleased to have in studio with me my wonderful friend and our guest narrator, Mwendwa Mbugua. So just a very brief intro into Mwendwa. So we've been friends from high school for a very long time. She is a singer. I know some of you will have realized that recently from her Instagram posts. A producer, an author. She actually has a book published. She's a creative, she's an educator, and in this AfriWetu journey, she is my director, support person, etc. And the patience and support she gives me is absolutely priceless. She's a special friend to me and my family and has been there for all my awkward teenage years, as well as into my awkward adulthood. Just a very quick thing, because I'm also a friend to the family, is that her husband actually did the production of the first 2 episodes. So shout out to Kanji and thank you once again. So I want to ask Mwendwa as into her journey with me on AfriWetu, because I think it's kind of important for listeners to understand the power behind everything that you hear. And Mwendwa is actually one of them. Hi, Mwend.
Hi, Mona. Gosh, you've got me all teary-eyed with such a beautiful introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So I think it's been a wonderful journey. I think I have learned so much from you in this process, about who we are, about where we come from, about our identity. And we so often get lost not knowing who we are out there in the world. And so to be able to be part of such a special journey where we get to share our stories and be able to pass them on as an inheritance to our children is truly been an honor.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Mwendwa's actually underselling what she's done, because I read the first ever script to her, and the amount of pointers that I needed, people, you won't believe. So everything that I do now, and as I keep getting better, is huge thanks to Mwendwa. So before we go on, tell us a little bit more about the legend that you're going to tell us about today. Just a small teaser, if you will.
Well, the legend I'm going to share is actually one of my favorites. It gets me excited because, we consume so much. Being a storyteller myself and having children, we consume too much from the West as far as their stories and their legends and their superheroes are concerned.
Yes.
But I believe the legend that we're going to learn about today is our own superwoman. She was phenomenal. And you're right, maybe there's a lot that's been written about her that's been mythical. But there are some facts that really remain as to who she is and what she did for her community. So the story I'm going to share today is about the Oracle of the Akamba, and her name was Syokimau.
Woohoo!
We need drums because she was powerful.
So before you head into the story, very quickly, just a little bit more about Kenya. So Kenya is in East Africa. It is bordered to the north by Ethiopia, Sudan, and Somalia. To the west, we have Uganda, and to the south is Tanzania. Kenya is also by the Indian Ocean to its east, and the capital city is Nairobi. And now, the reason why I picked this story, again, is exactly what Mwendwa said. She was our own superwoman from Kenya. So, over to you, Mwendwa.
Thank you, Mona. So, Syokimau, the oracle of the Akamba. She was a prophetess who predicted the colonization of Kenya before it actually happened in the 1800s. Legend has it that she sprung out of a tree, as no one ever really knew who her parents or close relatives were. People wondered whether she was sent from heaven or if she was the chosen one. Other stories say Syokimau was born and raised in Ep6 Hills. Now, Ep6 Hills is derived from the word Iveti, I hope I'm saying it right, which means women in Akamba. And this area was appropriately named this way due to the fierce inter-community battles between the Akamba and the Maasai tribes. And it is near what is now known today as Machakos. But this all happened way back in the 1800s. Now, besides being a prophetess, Syokimau was a great medicine woman. The Akamba people believed that her ability to prophesy came when she was attacked by a maimu, a benevolent spirit, when she was just a young girl. Her people held her in such high esteem because it is claimed that she could predict if other communities, such as the Maasai or the Gikuyu tribe, would attack. So she would give Akamba warriors enough time to prepare to defend themselves. During those days, the area around Machakos was the battlefield between the pastoral Maasai, whose weapon of choice was the spear, while the Akamba were the master archers whose arrows never missed. Conventional rules of engagement dictated that women and children be evacuated from the battlefield because they were treated as booties of war. So the Akamba warriors, as mentioned, listened to Syokimau and prepared for the battle well in advance, increasing their chances of victory against the community. She also had the ability to prophesy which community would win the war. And she conducted prayers for the warriors under a designated tree that acted as a shrine, and the tree was called the Itembo, where she would also make sacrifices for the warriors who would come home unhurt. Mwatu wa ngoma. Mwatu wa ngoma. Then the leader of the community heeded her counsel before battle and when he was facing a challenge in ruling over the people. It was not long before Syokimau predicted the coming of the British. Her prophecy indicated the arrival of a long metallic snake producing fire and smoke. And in it were people with skin like meat who spoke unintelligibly like birds and carried fire in their pockets. Amazing. She also predicted colonization, telling the Akamba people that these people with funny skin will beat them mercilessly and take over their land. Syokimau added that the Europeans would force the natives to discard their gods and worship their own British god. She also foretold the coming of a generation that would behave in strange ways. She said that this generation would talk like weaver birds, claim to be wiser, and break valued traditions. She said they would do things that were considered taboo. Surprisingly, would even build houses on top of one another. Wow! But just like she lived, Syokimau had an interesting death. One random morning, the villagers of Iveti, where she used to stay, found her dead in her hut. As per tradition, They disposed of her body in the forest after waiting 2 days to confirm that she was really dead. The second day after they had disposed of her body, an interesting phenomenon happened. A crying voice could be heard in the forest, "Woo!" leading the villagers straight to where they had placed her body. And there was Syokimau. She was praying and shouting, and once she glanced at the baffled neighbors, she cried out that it was really her. Oral literature has it that Syokimau lived for 2 more seasons before dying and resurrecting again, this time as an old woman, appearing before young girls who had gone to collect firewood. She went back to her hut and even talked to a few people who had come to see her. She was found the next morning dead, but this time for real. She had died with her mouth open, facing upwards, what people believed was the posture she had when she was speaking to the ancestors. Her grave is now an itembo, a shrine, that has been reclaimed by nature and is colonized by indigenous trees, but it is a guarded community resource where sacrifices to the ancestors are still offered today. The Ministry of Lands surveyed the shrine, and a title deed in the name of the community around Kitunduni issued to ensure this heritage will never be privatized. It is later said that Siongu Wakadhokia, another prophetess from Athi River, it's amazing that they came from there, was so amazed at her prophecy that she's the one who named the place that is now called Syokimau. She named it after her. And there is a statue of Syokimau at the Syokimau Standard Gauge Railway Station to celebrate this great superwoman, Akamba prophetess and medicine woman. The end.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to say for the record that Mwendwa, I've been trying to get her behind the mic. And her only condition was, I want to tell this particular story. So I had to go look for it. By the way, other edits are hers and hers alone. But I could tell you really loved this tale. Like you really, really did.
Super woman.
So I'm going to ask you, as I ask everybody, what was your best bit about this story?
I love that she was a woman.
Yeah.
Period. And she was in charge of strategy, war strategy and battles and plans for her community.
Yeah, she was actually.
And we're all super women. I believe we really are.
We really are. Mm-hmm. We really are. And we undersell ourselves a lot. And actually, one of the things that I'm getting to realize the more and more we go through this AfriWetu journeys is just how important African women are to our story.
Right.
So it's something which it amazes me each and every single time with every civilization, with every legend, with every fable,
right,
how important they are. So thank you for being that phenomenal woman who's come to tell this tale. Now, before we leave, I do want you to tell people a little bit more about yourself and what it is you do and how they can follow, support you, etc., etc., etc.
Wow. Well, okay. So just building or adding to what you were talking about, the story of Syokimau, I think everyone does have a story to tell. And everyone's story is important. And everyone should share their story. And that's really what my passion is. I'm a big believer in stories, and so I write stories. I'm a children's author.
Name of your book?
And the name of my book is called Don't Turn Off the Lights. And it's a story that was inspired by my own children who were afraid of I mean, sleeping with the lights off. And so I think it's just so refreshing when we begin to hear our own stories, when our children begin to hear our own stories and see characters in books that look like them and talk like them and have experiences like them, because it tells them that you also have a part in this world and that your part is important and that your role counts and that your story is as good as any other story.
Yep.
So that's a little about me.
Okay, and where can they get your book?
Well, my book is available online on Amazon.com. You can get it there. It's called Don't Turn Off the Lights.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, to you, Mwendwa, thank you so much. This is not the last we'll see of Mwendwa. I'm sure we'll invite her back again. Also, she's here every single time I record. Thank you all again for tuning in. And until next time, Mubarikiwe. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, please do visit us on our social media platforms at AfriWetu on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also email us at afriwetu@gmail.com. And please feel free to also leave a message at anchor.fm/AfriWetu. So I'd like to give a shout out and a huge thank you to my dream team. For one, Mwendwa Mbugua for the direction and for all the support she's given me for AfriWetu. And then I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Big City Studios for editing, mixing, sourcing the music, the sound effects, basically all things production in relation to AfriWetu, because it really does make a difference and brings these stories to life. Thank you.